A galaxy hanging by a thread, empires on the brink of collapse, and hidden forces waiting to strike. Episode 6 of Foundation Season 3 doesn't just push the story forward, it rips the curtain wide open, showing us how fragile power really is. If you thought the Empire was untouchable, or that the Foundation could hold its ground without sacrifices, this episode will make you question everything to understand the weight of Episode 6. We first need to remember where things left off in Episode 5. The galaxy was already trembling under the pressure of war, betrayal, and secrets that could rewrite history. On one side, we had the genetic dynasty of the Empire, led by Brother Day, struggling to maintain its illusion of control. Cracks were forming in their internal disputes, external rebellions, and whispers of prophecy that could shatter their entire bloodline. Meanwhile, the Foundation, born from Hari Seldon's vision of guiding humanity through the darkness of collapse, was far from united. Salvor and Gaul found themselves at odds with not only the Empire, but also with the burden of destiny itself. Every decision they made carried consequences that could shift the balance of the galaxy. Episode 5 also gave us strong hints of what was coming. The political chessboard was being set, with the Empire trying to crush resistance while the Foundation searched for strength in its belief system and science. Hari Seldon's influence loomed larger than ever, even though he was no longer physically present in the same way. The Vault, mysterious and unpredictable, reminded us that history is not just about battles, it's about ideas, visions, and the courage to fight for them. And now, in Episode 6, the weight of all these threads comes crashing together. This is the episode where alliances are tested, lies unravel, characters are forced to make choices that will echo across centuries. Nothing feels safe anymore. Not the Empire, not the Foundation. And not even the fragile hope that history can be steered. The beauty of this setup is how it mirrors Asimov's original concept of psychohistory, the idea that the masses may follow patterns, but individuals still matter. Episode 6 throws us into that conflict. The vast inevitability of collapse against the desperate will of people trying to change their fates. As the story opens, we are reminded of the storm brewing in every corner of the galaxy. And with each passing moment, we know one truth. The galaxy is about to be reshaped. And no one, not emperors, not rebels, not visionaries, is safe from what's coming. The opening moments of Episode 6 waste no time in pulling us back into the tension that has been building for weeks. It begins with a sense of quiet, deliberate, and heavy with meaning. The first thing we notice is not a battle or a grand speech, but the atmosphere itself. The lighting, the silence between characters, and even the way the camera lingers on certain faces all suggest that something monumental is about to unfold. We open on the Empire, and the setting tells us more than words could. The throne room, once a symbol of absolute order and dominance, feels colder now, less invincible. Brother Day enters with the confidence of a ruler, but there is a flicker of doubt in his eyes. His footsteps echo louder than usual, as if the very palace itself is questioning his authority. The dynasty built on clones and repetition is starting to feel like a cage rather than a crown. The conversation that follows sets the tone for the entire episode. We see Day's attempt to reassert control over his inner circle, but the cracks in loyalty are clear. Dawn watches carefully, as if calculating whether he will continue to play the obedient younger version of himself, or finally step out of the shadow of tradition. Dusk, older and more reflective, seems tired of the endless cycle, his silence carrying more weight than Day's threats. This dynamic between the three is more fragile than ever. It shapes how the rest of the episode unfolds. But the scene doesn't stop at politics, it digs deeper. A messenger arrives with troubling reports of uprisings on the outer reaches. These rebellions are not scattered anymore. They are coordinated, organized, and dangerously effective. The Empire has always relied on fear to keep the galaxy in check, but fear is losing its grip. For the first time, Day is forced to consider that the Empire might not be eternal. His expression gives him away, even though he tries to mask it with harsh orders. From here, the opening shifts its focus to the Foundation. The camera transitions to a starkly different environment. The distant world where Salver and Gaul are facing the consequences of their choices. The contrast between the sterile, polished halls of the Empire and the raw, rugged frontier of the Foundation is striking. While the Empire clings to its decaying power, the Foundation is struggling to build something new from chaos. We see Salver surveying the horizon, her face marked by both determination and exhaustion. She knows that every move they make against the Empire risks lives, yet doing nothing would doom them all. Gaul, on the other hand, is weighed down by visions of the future. Her ability to glimpse what might come is both a blessing and a curse. The opening makes it clear. Her struggle is not just about survival, it's about carrying the burden of destiny. The dialogue between them is sharp. Layered with fear and hope, Salver speaks with urgency, focused on action while Gaul hesitates, questioning whether they are truly steering history or being dragged along by it. Hari Seldon's presence, though not physical, lingers in every word. His voice, whether through recordings or echoes of past lessons, feels like a ghost guiding or haunting them. This creates an immediate emotional weight, reminding us that the Foundation was never just about ships and weapons. It was about ideas strong enough to outlast empires. Visually, the opening scene uses contrast brilliantly. Where the Empire's throne room feels suffocating and heavy with tradition, the Foundation's setting is alive with tension, uncertainty, and movement. It tells us that the fight ahead will not be won through brute force alone, but through adaptability, resilience, and belief in a future beyond the fall. The pacing of this opening is deliberate, almost slow, but in a way that builds suspense. Every pause in conversation, every glance exchanged, every flicker of light in the background is designed to pull us deeper into the moment. It's not rushing toward the action, it's letting the weight of the galaxy settle onto the characters before they act. This choice makes the coming conflicts feel more personal, more grounded, and then, just as we are absorbed in these dialogues, the episode delivers its first moment of tension. A sudden transmission cuts through the Foundation's camp, a warning, a threat, or perhaps both. The details are left deliberately unclear, but the effect is immediate. Everyone stops, listens, and realizes that the storm is no longer on the horizon. It has arrived by the time the opening scene ends. The audience is fully aware that Episode 6 is not just a continuation of what came before, it's a turning point. The Empire is slipping, the Foundation is rising, and the thin line between order and chaos is about to snap. The brilliance of this opening lies not in explosions or battles, but in the quiet realization that the galaxy has entered a moment of no return. This setup ensures that when the larger events of the episode unfold, they hit harder. We've seen the fear in the Empire's eyes. It's the weight of destiny on the Foundation's shoulders, and the fragile hope that something new might emerge from the ruins of the old. It is a beginning filled with silence, tension, and the promise of seismic change. If Episode 6 has a beating heart, it lies within the crumbling walls of the Empire. For centuries, the genetic dynasty has thrived on the illusion of permanence. A line of clones repeating the same faces, the same voices, the same power. But what this episode shows us is that permanence was always an illusion. And in Episode 6, the illusion begins to collapse. Brother Day is the center of this unraveling. From the very first scenes, his posture screams control, but his eyes betray fear. The man who once spoke with the authority of a god now speaks like a ruler fighting to keep his throne. Every word he delivers to his advisors carries an undertone of desperation. We've seen him ruthless before, but this is different. This is a man who knows that ruthlessness might not be enough. The first major blow to the Empire comes in the form of rebellion. Reports flood in from the outer reaches of the galaxy. What once seemed like scattered uprisings have turned into a coordinated resistance. Entire sectors that once trembled at the sight of the Empire's banner now dare to defy it. This is not fear slipping away slowly. It's fear crumbling overnight. For the first time, Brother Day is forced to acknowledge that the center cannot hold forever. And then comes the deeper conflict, the one inside the palace itself. The tension between day, dawn, and dusk is reaching a breaking point. The dynasty has always been built on the idea that three versions of the same man could rule together. maintaining stability through genetic perfection. But perfection, as this episode shows us, is nothing more than a fragile mask. Don is restless, his youth no longer filled with blind obedience. He watches Day closely, questioning every decision, silently wondering if this cycle of clones is a prison rather than a blessing. Dusk, older and wearier, has grown disillusioned. He no longer sees the grandeur in the dynasty, like the monotony. His silence in this episode is deafening, a silence that speaks of a man who knows the end when he sees it coming. One of the most striking scenes of episode 6 takes place in the council chamber. Brother Day attempts to deliver a rousing speech to his court, demanding loyalty and obedience. His words echo through the hall, but they do not land with the power they once held. Advisors glance at each other, guards shift uncomfortably, and even Dawn cannot hide his skepticism. It is a scene that strips away the mystique of the Empire, showing us that its greatest weapon, fear, may be slipping away. But it's not just politics that haunt Daitz's prophecy. Whispers of Hari Seldon's plans still echo across the galaxy, and even in the Empire's most guarded halls, they cannot silence it. Day tries to dismiss it as superstition, but deep down, he knows that Seldon's predictions are unfolding before his very eyes. Every rebellion, every crack in the dynasty, every challenge to his rule, it all feels like fate closing in. And that terrifies him more than any enemy ship ever could. The writers of this episode brilliantly balance Day's public strength with his private weakness. In private, we see him pacing, doubting, second-guessing himself in ways that Day would never allow anyone else to see. He lashes out at his inner circle, not out of strategy, but out of fear. And fear, as we know, is the first sign of an empire's downfall. Meanwhile, Dawn and Dusk are not just passive observers. Dawn begins to test the limits of his role, questioning whether he must always follow the path laid out for him. He begins to wonder if individuality is more powerful than tradition. Dusk, on the other hand, acts as a mirror. He represents the tired reflection of a cycle that is repeated too many times. Together, they form a triangle of instability, Day clinging to power, Dawn reaching for freedom, and Dusk quietly watching it all decay. The climax of the Empire's arc in this episode comes with a revelation. A secret meeting, intercepted communications, or perhaps a betrayal within the palace itself. 6 gives us the sense that the danger is not just outside the gates, but inside them. Someone close to Day is not as loyal as they seem. Whether it's a council member, a soldier, or even one of the other Cleons, the message is clear. The walls of the Empire are rotting from within, and that is what makes this storyline so gripping. The Empire is no longer the immovable force it once seemed to be. It is fragile, splintering, and vulnerable. Brother Day might still sit on the throne, but the throne itself is shaking. The dynasty built on clones is now threatened by the very humanity it tried to erase the doubts, the desires, the betrayals that make individuals unpredictable. By the end of this arc in episode 6, we understand one thing with absolute clarity. The Empire is dying. Not with a sudden blow, but with a slow, inevitable collapse. The dynasty that once promised eternal rule now feels like it is living on borrowed time. And in the silence after Day's speeches, in the hesitant glances of his advisors, and in the quiet defiance of Dawn, we hear the whisper of history. All empires fall. If the Empire's arc in this episode is about a great power crumbling from the inside, the Foundation's arc is about a fragile movement learning how to survive against impossible odds. In episode 6, the Foundation doesn't appear as a polished force or a united front. Instead, it is fractured, uncertain, and fighting to hold itself together. Yet, in that struggle lies its strength. The episode wastes no time showing us the emotional weight carried by Salvor Hardin and Gal Dornick. These two characters stand at the center of the Foundation's fight, but their paths could not feel more different. Salvor is a soldier, driven by instinct and survival. Gal is a visionary, haunted by glimpses of the future, and burdened with the knowledge of what may come. Their conversations in this episode are some of the most important we've seen all season. One of the most striking early moments with the Foundation is the contrast between hope and despair. The people around Salver and Gaul are tired of running, tired of fighting, tired of believing in promises that feel too distant to matter. The Foundation was meant to be a light in the darkness, but right now, it feels like a flickering flame struggling to stay alive against a storm. Episode 6 makes us feel that exhaustion. We see it in their faces, in the way they speak, in the silence between them. Yet, amid that exhaustion, there is still defiance. Salver, in particular, refuses to give in. She has become a voice of resilience, pushing back against the fear that grips her people. In one emotional scene, she rallies a small group by reminding them that the Empire is not invincible, that even the strongest walls eventually fall. Her words are not polished or rehearsed. They come from a place of raw conviction, and because of that, they matter. Gal, on the other hand, takes us deeper into the psychological struggle of the Foundation. Her visions of the future weigh heavily on her. In this episode, we see her wrestle with the question that has haunted her from the beginning. Is she steering history, or is history steering her? Her ability to glimpse what is to come makes her invaluable, but it also isolates her. She fears that every choice she makes, even the smallest one, might be exactly what drives the galaxy toward disaster. Hari Seldon's presence looms over all of this. Though not physically alive in the same way he once was, his influence is everywhere in the vault, in the words he left behind, and in the minds of those who still believe in his plan. In Episode 6, the Foundation's struggle is not only against the Empire, but against time itself. Can they hold the line long enough for Seldon's vision to play out? Or will fear, division, and doubt destroy them before the Empire even strikes? A particularly powerful sequence in this arc comes when the Foundation intercepts a transmission, whether from the Empire or another force. The message is filled with threat, perhaps even mockery, designed to remind them of their weakness. The reaction among the people is immediate: panic, whispers of retreat, and the temptation to give up. But it is in this moment that Salver and Gaul's dynamic truly shines. Salver insists on action, pushing for bold moves, while Gaul warns of the cost. Their argument is not just about tactics, it is about philosophy. Do they fight to the last breath, or do they play the long game, even if it means sacrifices now? This conflict makes the Foundation's storyline feel alive, because it mirrors the central theme of the entire series. Survival at any cost versus the belief in something greater than survival. It's not about who has the bigger ships or stronger armies, it's about who can endure. The Foundation, though fractured, embodies that endurance. Another fascinating layer in this episode is how the Foundation's people view Hari Seldon's psychohistory. To some, it is hope, the promise that all of this suffering has meaning, that it leads somewhere. To others, it feels like a trap, as though they are nothing more than pawns in a game already decided. Episode 6 doesn't give us easy answers. Instead, it leans into that tension, showing us a community torn between faith in the plan and the desperate need for immediate survival. Visually, the Foundation's arc contrasts beautifully with the Empire's, where the Empire's halls are sterile. Ordered and suffocating, the Foundation's world is rough, chaotic, and alive with uncertainty. We see camps built from scraps, makeshift councils debating around flickering lights, and the constant sense that they could be discovered or destroyed at any moment. This imagery reinforces the idea that the Foundation is not yet a polished force. It is a seed, fragile but filled with potential. By the midpoint of the episode, the Foundation's arc builds to a moment of decision. Salver argues for taking a stand while Gaul urges caution, fearing that rushing into battle will fulfill the very collapse they are trying to prevent. The people are caught in between, torn between action and hesitation. This moment captures the heart of the Foundation's struggle. Do they wait for history to unfold as Hari Seldon predicted, or do they seize control of their own fate, even if it risks disaster? The brilliance of this arc lies in its emotional depth. We are not watching faceless rebels or nameless soldiers. We are watching individuals trying to balance fear, hate, and survival. Every argument, every glance, every pause carries the weight of a civilization's future. And by the end of Episode 6, the Foundation storyline leaves us with no clear victory, only more questions. The fight is far from over, But one thing becomes certain: the Foundation's greatest strength is not its weapons or its numbers, its ability to endure, to adapt, and to keep believing even when belief feels impossible. Episode 6 captures that perfectly. The Foundation may be broken, but it is not defeated. And as long as even a small group continues to carry Hari Seldon's vision, the galaxy still has a chance at something beyond the fall of empires. Every episode of Foundation carries with it an undercurrent of mystery. But Episode 6 heightens that sense of the unknown through the vault and the subtle whispers of the Second Foundation. These are not simply background elements. They are the shadowy threads weaving together everything we've seen so far. If the Empire represents the decaying present, and the Foundation represents the fragile hope for the future, then the vault stands as a reminder of history itself, inevitable, mysterious, and far beyond human control. The vault has always been more than a structure. To the people of Terminus, it is sacred, a symbol of Hari Seldon's plan. To outsiders, it is a riddle, a monument no one can fully explain. And in Episode 6, it once again becomes the stage for some of the most haunting and thought-provoking moments.